Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, KB reps NJ. They're the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? It's real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Til Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to gabbing.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Til Mets Do Us Part. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter, all courtesy of the Brella Sports Network. John Saponaro out in Los Angeles, California, which means Matt Ibanez holding things down back in New Jersey. Before we get underway, and there is so much to talk about with our New York Mets, of course, with about 30 some odd games left and a playoff race on the line, the Mets in the thick of it, the Braves refuse to lose, all of that stuff. Before we get into any of that, Ibby, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling pretty good, John. Obviously, August is winding down pretty quickly. September's around the corner, which means school for a lot of teachers. So I'm getting prepared for that. But of course, it is great that our New York Mets are still in the thick of it as September rolls around. We got some very meaningful baseball ahead of us, and we have a very important series that we're going to talk about today, and of course, what lies ahead for this team. But yeah, I'm excited, and of course, the red light's on. It's Wednesday. It's great to see the chat filling up. It's great to see some names I haven't seen in a while in the chat as well. So let's have a show.
Shout out to the chat, of course. A lot of familiar faces, like you said. Some not new faces, but returning faces that haven't been here in a minute. I'm sure this number will continue to increase as it does. The best way to make sure you don't miss a second of the show is, of course, subscribing and turning on notifications on YouTube. So if you haven't done that, now might be a great opportunity to go ahead and do that. But that's it, Ibby. Look, the Mets are kind of in this gauntlet run right now that started at home with the Baltimore Orioles. They take 2 out of 3. Then they have to come all the way out here, go to San Diego. I know that the series ended with a little bit of a sour taste in the mouths of a lot of Mets fans because of the way that they lost that last game. I don't want to try to sugarcoat it and sound rosy about it. Listen, Buto's been great, and he wasn't. He was a little
didn't
off.
have it. Change of wasn't there.
Exactly. And you could sit there and you could say whether or not, Mendoza should have used Diaz with the off day. He said he didn't want to overwork him. Look, he knows Diaz better than we know Diaz. He knows the situation better than we know the situation. Diaz likes to pitch every day, so maybe he felt like he couldn't pitch. We don't exactly know. Could be a case of a manager just protecting his player saying, hey, I don't feel 100%. Hey, we won't use you today unless we absolutely have to. And look, the Mets set it up where if you get Buto being Buto, you get out of that game without having to use Diaz. And it's hard to win a 4-game series. So splitting the series, look, you got to win. Every game matters so much. I understand that if you're trying to catch up and get one of these wild card spots. But Ibby, on this gauntlet run that's taken them from home versus Baltimore through San Diego, now into Arizona, the Mets are 5-3. Look, and I think a lot of look, you want more now because they're 5-3. But I think if you asked Mets fans, honestly, with some truth serum, how they'd feel coming out of these 10 games if the Mets were 5-5, knowing how tough it was going to be versus the teams with the 2 best records in the National League since the All-Star break in Arizona and San Diego. I think a lot of Mets fans, even with everything at stake, would have signed for 5-5. Again, now that they're 5-3, you want more. You want to win this series at least, and you want to do better going into the White Sox series. But I think you're being a little revisionist if you're sitting there going like, oh, this hasn't been good enough. The Mets have played up to the competition, and the Mets deserve credit because they played really well. Now you just need some of these other teams to lose, which we can talk about later. But as far as the Mets handling business, they've done their job. The Mets have handled their business pretty well so far on this. I can't even say this road trip because, again, it goes back to the home games, but
Right.
this, keep calling it the gauntlet. The Mets have handled their business well during this gauntlet run.
Based off of where this team is when it comes to the bullpen, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I had said last week, I believe I said, going into these two series, I said, if you walk out winning 2 of 3 from Arizona and splitting with the Padres, I think you're on a good track and a good pace. But of course, like you said, it sucks that the Braves refuse to lose. And it's just like, you're not seeing that progression within the stands as they're still 3 games back. But just to go back real quick also, when it comes to that Padres game, yeah, it sucks because it was right there. It's 2-0 in the 8th, and you're thinking, we're going to take 3 or 4 from San Diego in San. This is huge. Like you said, during this gauntlet run. But, when I looked at it, I was like, when I was watching that inning, at least when it came to Buto, I mean, where this bullpen has been, people can question about keeping him in, but at the same time, it's like, of all of your options, rested or not, it's just like, I felt like, you're going to live and die with this guy because you have been, and no one else has really been performing within the bullpen. And I wasn't sure if they were going to go to Diaz that quickly. Like you said, he knows Diaz, and if he's ready or not. Like, if there's one thing you could say about Mendoza, he's been willing to put guys out there and give them length. So I don't think he would have been afraid. It's just maybe he felt that wasn't the right time. It's questionable, but like I said, Buto's changeup wasn't there that day. It was fading away as opposed to dropping. He got way too much plate. Those cuts that Profar was having, it was clear that if he got too much plate, he was going to do some serious damage. And he came up a little bit too a little bit too much plate, pulls one out of the park, and then, the rest is history. And then, of course, Diaz blowing it in the 9th. But, that sucks. You could have took 3 of 4. But what I'm focused on right now, at least, with this series with Arizona, big win last night, big offensive explosion last night. I'll be honest, I fell asleep because I couldn't stay up that late. It was just too much for me. I passed out. But the big thing for me is this team, and the chat can attest to this, and you can too, John. Recently, when this team has gone out and put on an offensive showcase, scoring 8 runs, scoring 7 runs, scoring 10 runs, like whatever it is, that next game, they've been laying an egg. It's happened, whether it's just that game or the series in general on the back end. They have the offensive explosion, and then the bats kind of falter. They kind of disappear a little bit, and then you're wondering, it was great when you scored 10 runs, but I wish you saved a couple for these, these back end games to try and win a series. That's what I'm focused on the most tonight. And we'll talk more about what happened with Sean Manaea and everything from last night as well. But when I'm looking at it and I go, this offense has to show me something tonight. You have an opportunity. They have to capitalize. If they come out and they get, 3 hits on 1 run and they lose like 4-1, it doesn't instill that much confidence, and it puts a lot more confidence back into Arizona to go out and finish a series tomorrow. So it's like, today is a big game for me because I have to see the offense continue what they were doing last night. This isn't the time to disappear.
I like this comment. Look, a lot of people saying, hey, the Mets need to continue to win because the Braves keep winning. The Mets should have taken care of business against the Angels and the A's and the Marlins because that's hurting them right now because the Braves were playing down at that point. And I see all those comments and I don't disagree with those comments, but I'm just trying to look forward here because that stuff did happen in the past and they didn't do anything to bury themselves. They just didn't do anything to better themselves. And that is frustrating, but we can only look forward because, again, the Mets don't technically control their own destiny, but with 3 games left against the Braves, 2 more against Arizona, 7 games against Philadelphia, they still kind of feel like they do, and very winnable games against the White Sox. We'll talk about the White Sox coming up in a little bit. So I'm not poo-pooing that, and also too many people commented it to bring them up individually, but Rosie said it, Douglas Barnes said it, Junior Swingman said it. Like, I mean, there's so many people. You guys are right. I'm just trying to, again, we're trying to look forward rather than look back. And that's why I brought up this one from Daniel Caps that kind of encapsulates this whole thought process and exactly what you just said, Ibby. Wrap this series win up tonight. Don't let there be a rubber match. Don't have a situation where the Arizona Diamondbacks win a tidy 4-1 game where the Mets have 3 hits and a run and they don't get any hits with runners in scoring position and they have bad at-bats all night. Don't put yourself in a situation like that where the momentum swings back to Arizona where you have to play a rubber match. Win tonight and then worry about the sweep tomorrow, the potential sweep. You know, you got to take it one game at a time, but I think that's all the more reason why they should be putting the hammer down right now and getting the series win. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Look, I do get I get the pain here. I get everybody has trauma. Dear God, from Rosie, that last series in Atlanta, House of Horrors. I mean, it's the second to last series of the year, supposed to be 2 games. It's 3 games because of a game that was rained out.
Right.
You know, look, Ibby, the way things are trending right now, this moment, today, August 28th, that series is going to decide whether or not the Mets make the playoffs. It is. But, you know, stuff can change between now and then, even though it's not that long from now. But stuff can change. But right now, yeah, it seems like that series is really going to be the true make or break for this team, because if things continue to go this way and the Mets are 2.5 games, 2 games back, 1 game back, you know, they're going to have to go into Atlanta and take care of business, which historically the Mets have not done. But, you know, right now, I'm just going to choose to feel good about where they're playing. And again, I refused to say it last week. I refused to say it the week before. Ibby, I refused to say it a month ago. I'm never going to tell anybody this year with this team that, hey, lock it in, the Mets are going to make the playoffs. I can't tell you that. I simply cannot say, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. All I'm saying is right now, things are looking good. Just enjoy the run and enjoy the ride. And I'm going to continue to echo that, because I don't know what else you could really do. You know, baseball, sports are up and down. Sometimes they're very up and down in one season, like this season has been for the Mets. Right now it's up. So let's play up. And this is the point too, like, good one from Douglas. If the Mets can go on a good winning streak, the division is even still in play. And I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody, hey, Phillies better watch out. Let's puff out our chest. Like, no.
Got a lot of games on them.
But the Mets right now, I think, are 7 games back of the Phillies with 7 games to play against them. You could win the division if you go on a win streak.
Could get interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
It's possible. And that's why I have a hard time being down. Even though they didn't take care of business, even though the Braves keep winning, I can't be down today. There's less time, and with every day there's less and less time on the calendar. But there's still too much time to be worried.
Yes, I mean 30 games left, and I can see Stanley's comment right here saying, "Let's focus on beating the DBacks." Yeah, like you said, everything is in front of them. We can look back, and like I saw Ant's comment before Subway to Shea, and just echoing the things that I had said previously on previous episodes when I said that that set of games looking back, yes, but in the moment I said it as well, like the Marlins and the A's and the Angels, like those were big games that you had to win. Look, what happened. I hope, just like you, Ant, I hope I don't have to look back on that when the season's over and say, man, what could have been if they would have just handled business at that spot. Because I know people can do that all the time when it comes to a given season. They can look back at a game in May or at the end of April and be like, oh, if they would have won this game. But it's like, no, but like when things are really starting to come into shape and you can find something like, man, if they would have just been able to handle something at this point, maybe things could have been different. But to John's point, I am looking forward. I'm looking at what's in front of them right now. They are still in this hunt. They are 3 games out, and anything can happen at this point because there are 30 games left. There are plenty of opportunities in front of them, like John just said, when it comes to, but again, no gimmies either. Still got a lot of games with the Phillies. You got the Braves on the calendar too. And of course, we got the series right now with the DBacks, and then hopefully handling business like they should to close out August and going into September to start off a good run, hopefully against the White Sox, which I just saw a picture before. If we're curious about what's going on over in Chicago, there was nobody in the stadium, absolutely nobody in the stadium before first pitch. So essentially, you're playing in I don't want to call it a home game, but really, it's not really enemy territory because it's a neutral site. It's a neutral site because no one's even there. But there's a lot in front of this team still. I still have my reservations, as I've said before, because I am worried about this bullpen. There's a lot of question marks on things. I'm very happy with what I've seen from the starting pitching to this point, specifically Sean Manaea, obviously. I like what we've seen recently from Sevy. And, of course, David Peterson just goes out there and wins ball games, and he's doing a good job. But I love what I'm seeing from the starting. I'm not at all that excited about seeing Tyler McGill come back. Potentially he could be the guy on Friday because of the Blackburn injury, which sucks.
Seems likely. Seems like it's
Seems
going to be
likely.
Tyler McGill.
But, Sevy tonight, Peterson tomorrow, these are the guys that have been delivering for this team. You got to go out there, but you got to provide for them. They can go out there and pitch their ass off, but like I just said, this team's got to go out there and they got to hit as well. So everything's still in front of them. No reason to get down. I'm praying that the bullpen can somehow, keep it together with, the Elmer's glue, whatever they have to do to try and make it in. Because the last thing I'll say on this is David Stearns has not lied to you to this point where he said that this team is going to compete. It is September. This team is still competing in 2024. It's not being viewed as a transition year. This team has been fighting the entire time. The guys that he's gone out and signed, sure, there have been some duds. Sure, there's been some duds in the bullpen. You can question some things when it comes to the guys that were brought in at the deadline now because it's not really panning out the way you thought it would. But a lot of the guys they did bring in, they are providing and making this not feel like that transition year that everyone feared. The Harrison Baders, the Sean Manaeas, the Luis Severinos of the world. So the Luis Torrens pickups, like a lot of guys that are helping this team stay in this hunt and push for an October berth. So again, 30 games, a lot in front. So let's try to enjoy this ride.
Ibby, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here because the Mets are, very much in the thick of it. But I am looking forward to a time when the season is over, and I'm hoping that the season ends somewhere around early November, whenever the World Series is scheduled. I hope that's what happens. But I am looking forward to bringing back up the bold predictions that we made at the beginning of the season because
I'll bring mine up. Let's see mine real quick. I forgot.
I haven't looked at mine, but I know a couple of them. I remember what they
I remember
were,
a couple,
and they feel pretty good. This is not the time to talk about it, but it's just funny that you brought up it. When you said Harrison Bader, it made me think of it. Jump back into the comments here for a couple. Douglas Barnes said, I think they are 9 back of the Phillies with 7 against them. Can confirm. While Ibby was talking, I just did a quick check. So thank you for bringing that up, Douglas. And yes, you are right. I was going off of, I guess, old information or just kind of that and a mixture of like estimating it. But yeah, they are 9 games back with 7 to play. Ibby, before we talk about the bullpen, we talk about Manaea. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff here. I do want to talk about 2 things that I don't think are maybe as important, but I don't want them to get lost in the shuffle. And so I don't want to save them till the end. And then it's like, oh shit, we ran out of time. So let's take this one first. Jeff Cohen, MVP chance heard for Lindor in the desert. So
not for Perdomo, last year's All-Star, not Perdomo.
I tweeted it out
Perdomo?
and I stand by it. I tweeted it out and I stand by this. That was, far as I can remember, the worst game I have ever seen a major league shortstop play.
It wouldn't stop. It was awful. I kept laughing, but that was terrible.
I've never seen anything like that before. But yes, so MVP chance for Lindor, not for Perdomo. Look, Ibby, I think I'm happy that Lindor's in the conversation. I think it's clear Lindor is the MVP of this team. You and I have never wavered in our support and our love of Lindor and how good we thought he was. We made the case last year that Lindor was actually being underpaid relative to StatCast and all that stuff. We have had this conversation on this show, whether it means anything or not. I think it means something to the player, with Stanley saying Lindor should be named team captain. We've talked a lot about this. Look, I think Lindor is going to finish obviously in the top 5, maybe even in the top 3. I don't think he's going to win the MVP. And I love Lindor and I love the Mets. I'm not sure that I don't know that he should. I understand that the other 2 guys are DHs only, and that makes it a little closer. It's good. It's going to be really hard. I mean, Ohtani is 40-40. He's going to keep building on that. Marcell Ozuna is a piece of shit, but he might win the Triple Crown. Lindor, I understand that those guys don't even like Ohtani's not pitching this year, and Ozuna has not been a good defender in 8 years. But Lindor's Gold Glove shortstop that I don't think gets him over the hump. I don't. I think it's been a great story. I think he's had a great season. He is the MVP of the Mets. I don't know that he is the MVP of the league. I don't know.
This is where, and just look, I can see like some of the, I don't want to call it vitriol, but like some of the anger coming from the chat on certain things. Like Daniel coming here saying if Ohtani is off LA, they're still a playoff team. If you take Lindor off the Mets, they don't win 50 games. You tell me who the MVP is. Looking at Carlos is right here saying how Lindor is the MVP of the league. He brings the most value to a team offensively and defensively. The biggest thing with those is it's been a conversation amongst fans and people in general for X amount of years now. It's always like, is it the most valuable player to a given team for a given situation, or is it just the best overall stats? And look, I understand that, you know, a DH, to my knowledge, I believe a DH has never, a straight up DH has never won an MVP, and that's what Ohtani is. There's no pitching involved in this, so you can't play the whole does both things into the equation. So it's very hard, to me at least, because as much as I love Lindor, I'm saying this also because I look at things on how I picture it's going to play out, and I know they're going to give Ohtani by a large margin at this point. I think they're going to give Ohtani the MVP because, again, we could be talking about a guy that's going to go 45-45 by the time it's all over, or even 50-50, which is unheard of. So I see something like that because it is so stark in the difference between Ohtani's numbers and Lindor's numbers from an offensive standpoint. I don't think that the defense, because it's so subjective, and that's me borrowing from what Ken Rosenthal's piece was on this entire conversation. Like, and the point he made was like, defense is very subjective. Like, you look at some of the stats and how people look at it, it's very much in the eye of the beholder almost. So it's like, can you put
which is unfair? It's unfair that it hurts him in that way, because I'm sorry to interrupt, but
that's okay.
You're right, because not necessarily with Lindor, but we've seen it with other players where like UZR might say that a guy is a plus defender and defensive runs saved say that he's a negative defender, or vice versa. And so there is no quantifiable metric. Now, a lot of you are going to refute that with, I don't need a quantifiable metric. I watch him with my eyes and I know how good he is.
Right.
That is the counter argument. And I agree with you.
Yes.
But because there is no quantifiable metric for defense, it is very difficult to really use that as the thing that sets him apart. Now, yes, does he play a premium position? He absolutely does. Does it hurt the other two guys that they don't play defense at all? In Ohtani's case, just this year, it does. But Ibby, I don't know that Lindor's offensive numbers are close enough to, let's just say, Ohtani. I don't think that his numbers are close enough to Ohtani's that the defense is going to make a difference. And look, if you're going to sit here and say what Daniel's saying, which is also a fair point, I think this is a little harsh, but I don't think it's wrong. Ohtani is the MLB cash cow. That's why he'll win it.
Of course.
But he has a leg up. He's a multiple-time MVP. I mean, he's, maybe the best pure baseball player we've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, in a lot of ways, you can make that case. So, like, yeah, does that sway it in a different direction? It does, but that's kind of how this all works, right? Like, you mentioned the thing about defense. We also look at it from this perspective. Isn't it a travesty that Lindor hasn't won a Gold Glove as a Met? Lindor clearly is a Gold Glove player. And this is not this is not the case of, like, the Colorado third baseman whose name escapes me right now, not winning a Gold Glove because Nolan Arenado won one 10 years in a row. What's the guy's name? Ryan McMahon? Is that the guy I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
This is not a case of like, damn, McMahon should win one, but Nolan Arenado is one of the best third basemen we've ever seen, and he keeps winning. This is a case of guys who are clearly not as good as Lindor in some cases winning the Gold Glove over him. So, you can't even get the defense right on a defensive award. And this is why I interrupted you. You can't even get the defense right on a defense-only award. You're going to hope that the defense sways people to vote for him as the MVP when the other guy is probably going to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases. It's not going to happen. It's just don't upset yourself.
Like I said, I think that you would be able to use the defense more as a metric in the entire equation if his offensive numbers were, like you said, a little bit closer. I don't know if I have to go to the extreme, but if I said that, if Lindor had the numbers that Ozuna's putting up right now, I think you have a much larger case to make for Lindor. Because I got the numbers right here. Like Lindor, 270, 27 homers, 78 RBIs, 828 OPS, which is 24th. Whereas, Ozuna's 308, 37 homers, 98 RBIs, 966 OPS, which is 5th. Look, it's a huge difference. It's a stark difference overall across the board. And I think if he was higher in that sense on the offensive side, then you could use the defense. But look, it doesn't matter to me. I know what he's providing for my team. He, like you said, he is an MVP for my team, and he is at the central part as to why my team, our team, all of our teams, is in this hunt. He is the reason for that. You cannot take that away from him. Does he get an award for that? No, but he gets the admiration he should get. And yes, I laughed at Carson's comment before saying that the people chanting MVP are the same jackasses that'll be calling for his head in April of next year. But, and as sad as that is, it's true. But overall, to me, he's an MVP in my eyes because I watch baseball through the lens for my team. He's an MVP, yes. Is he going to win the overall award because of the crazy year that Ohtani is having? Probably not.
I agree. This is a good counterpoint. I don't even think Ant necessarily meant it as a counterpoint, but it's just for all sides of the argument case. I'll bring this up. Wright did have better numbers than Rollins in 2007, and he lost out to Rollins.
He did. He did.
That's true.
That's
did. True. So, look, this is kind of the counter to what I was saying about the Mets' chances of making the playoffs. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys Lindor can't win the MVP. I'm just saying I don't think it's likely he wins the MVP. So if I were you, I wouldn't get hung up on it. The same way that I'm saying I can't sit here and tell you the Mets are 100% going to make the playoffs. I'm just telling you to enjoy the ride. It's kind of the similar argument here of just like, don't get hung up on the MVP. Do I want him to win it? Yes. Would I love it if he won it? Absolutely. Do I think he has a case? 100%. But do I think he will? No, I don't think he will. So I don't think you should get hung up on it as a fan. Let me jump back into the comments here. Keith throwing out some QBC news. Keith Blacknick, of course.
That's right.
Did you say offseason? The QBC is in the offseason. Turk Wendell and Greg Jeffries confirmed for panels and signings on Saturday, December 7th. So Turk Wendell, we broke that news, I think 2 weeks ago. Greg Jeffries is the other confirmed guest. I know they are working for one more. There are typically three. I shouldn't say always, but there are typically three guests. And like Keith reminded us last week and the week before, tickets will go on sale after all of the guests are booked and announced. So be on the lookout for that. QBC is great. I can't wait to be there. Can't wait to see everybody in person, all of that fun stuff along the way. Get some love there from Aunt Rivera. Greg Jeffries, awesome, Keith. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Maybe the other thing, and I don't want to get bogged down on either one of these things, which is why I brought them up early, but I do think they need to be talked about. Subway to Shea, Aunt Rivera. So about the 62 Mets record, and Maureen said, I hope the White Sox break it. And Ant said, can we sweep and crush the White Sox so I don't have to hear about that stupid record anymore? It is a dubious distinction to have the most losses in the history of Major League Baseball in one season.
Yes.
But some people wear that like a badge of honor. So your thoughts on whether or not you want the White Sox to break it?
I responded to Joe DeMayo's tweet off of Tim Britting's tweet mentioning this, and Joe's comment was one that a lot of people have been asking for a while now, and that is, does anyone have this close of a affection for this record? And I responded by saying I had a great conversation when I did the QBC luncheon. Speaking of the QBC, the luncheon with Howie Rose, that was actually my first question that I asked him, because last year, Gary and Keith were ragging on Howie for wanting to keep that distinction during the game when everyone was wondering if Oakland, because they were so bad at that point, would he want Oakland to break it? So when I asked the question, his response was one that I understood, but me personally,
one that you don't respect. You don't respect Howie Rose. Breaking news. If he hates Howie Rose.
No, someone can clip that now. That's ridiculous. I would never say that. I love Howie. Okay. Howie was fantastic, and I'm grateful to Keith for letting me interview him. No, but when it comes to it, his main thing, and it's what he opened with, it was, I don't mean to sound, pretentious or to sound a certain way, but he was like, you had to be there. And if you weren't there, you wouldn't understand. Which, again, I don't understand. And a lot of us don't understand, because he was saying, and the main reason why it was different, or it's different for someone like us, specifically me and you, John, is because his explanation was from 62 to 69, which is, again, you're seeing the climb of a team that culminates in a championship. So I understand why you can say this team was so bad. You got baseball back in New York, National League Baseball back in New York in 62, and you have where it culminates in 69, and you saw that growth over the years from the worst to the absolute best. So I followed up by saying, I think for a lot of people, specifically around my age, I think the whole thing is we have not been able to have that culmination. We have not been able to have that championship. So when we see losing, and when we grow up in an age of social media and things being more prominent in the paper at the time, and all things of that nature, like the Mets are associated with negativity and losing, and we as fans don't want that. We want to be viewed as top end. We want to be a high-end organization. We want to be viewed as a winner. That's what we want. We do not want losing. So that's why we want to lose all of those distinctions when it comes to negativity. And that one is a huge one. Get that off of your shoulders. You don't need that. So while I understand where Howie was coming from, and yes, I will never understand it because I wasn't there. And again, I'm not of that age, but I feel that for me, I'm not going to shed a tear if the White Sox, and at this rate, I don't see how they don't break it, but I do not care for the record, because I have zero attachment to it. And I fall into that category of always wanting this team to be put on a path to be viewed as a winner. So losing those distinctions of negativity and overall losing is fine by me.
Well said. Well thought out. I'm going to jump into the comments before I give my opinion. I'm going to take the first two comments out of order in which they came in, because they are in direct sort of response to what you were saying. As you were saying it, a few moments before, Douglas Barnes posted something very similar. I wasn't alive, but I get why old Met fans like it. To go from the worst record ever to a World Series win in 1969 must have been an awesome ride. And then he followed it up later by saying, if the Mets have won more World Series in our lifetime, I think current Mets fans wouldn't care. So I think that he's right in lockstep with everything that you were saying. Maureen, on the other hand, says, I'm an old Mets fan and I hate the record.
Maureen, you're not old. Cut it out.
Carson said, time to put the old Mets to bed. Let the White Sox break it. They suck gazelle shit. They earned it. Aunt Rivera saying, I respect Howie. He's one of the best, but I'm sorry he is wrong and I wasn't there. And Jeff Cohen kind of just noting, the Tigers came close years ago with 119 losses, and they were able to win 5 out of 6 to avoid the losing record. I think that Howie's point is well taken. And I also think, like Ant said, he's one of the best. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Howie. Howie seems like a very nice man. I have never had the fortune of meeting him, but he seems like a terrific guy.
He's awesome.
Yeah. However, that does not mean that he is always right. I disagreed with a take of his on steroids the other day. I disagree with him fundamentally on steroids, and I disagree with him on this. And the counter that I will have to it was a wild ride to go from worst record in baseball to a World Series in just 7 short years and watch all of that in real time. The counter that I will make is one, the thing that Douglas already said. If us younger fans had seen more winning, we would care less about it. But when we have not, there's a whole generation of fans. I was born in 86, so I was alive for it, but I didn't see it. I didn't watch it. And there's a whole generation of fans that are slightly younger than me that are now well into their 30s that have not seen a World Series. The Mets have, I think, the 5th longest World Series drought currently. If you don't count teams that have never won a World Series like San Diego. Obviously, Cleveland has the longest. I think it's the Pirates after that. And then it's all right in a row. I don't remember exactly who it is, but the Mets, I think, have the 5th longest drought. So it's getting there. It's significant. And the other thing that I think takes away from this magical moment in time that Howie Rose is talking about is that there was also a time when the Mets had the fun record of being the quickest expansion team to win a World Series in just 7 years. That record has now been broken twice. The Marlins broke it, and then the Diamondbacks broke it. So I think this ride from being terrible to being great and at the top of the sport, to me, I don't think it has as much meaning now because other teams have come into the league as an expansion team and have gotten to the promised land quicker in the modern game. So to me, I don't think that it matters as much now. I think that second part of it tarnishes what a great ride it was. Does that make sense?
No, it does. But one thing I did leave out was in the conversation that I had with them. And if anyone wants to hear that, you can go to the QBC YouTube channel. It is on there. The one part that he ended with was because of the culmination, his main thing was it was prior to the time that we're in now, where it's like, yes, to your point, in the modern game, expansion teams can come in and they could spend some cash and they can build real quick and then they can win. His point was you couldn't do that back then. You didn't have guys with that type of money throwing it around the way that they are in the modern game, so that's why it was part of his reasoning as to why it was so special to make said climb. Again, I don't think anyone should really be bashing Howie. I think it's more so like, I think he made his point with the first thing that he said to me, and that was you had to be there. Like, and if you weren't, then, so again, others aren't going to completely agree with it because we have some older fans in here that are saying, they don't care and they want to lose it. But I guess for someone like Howie, who was at every game as a kid in the upper deck at Shea, like maybe it carries a little bit more close to his heart. And, that's his right. It's not for us because, again, we didn't grow up with it. It's not for me because I want my team to be associated with winning, not associated with losing.
Yes, I think for all of us younger fans, and I guess I kind of never gave my full opinion because I gave the examples rather, and you can allude to what I think, but I would rather my team be associated with winning, not be associated with losing. And I think that's very well said on your part. And I think that when even if it was 60 years ago, it doesn't matter. It's still a record, a distinction that is not great to have, and I'd rather not have it. In the immortal words of Carson, put so eloquently, let the White Sox have it. They suck gazelle shit. This feels like a natural point to take a break because I don't want to deep dive into the bullpen or Sean Manaea or Alonso or some of the other stuff. But we do have a couple more minutes to play with. So let's go to the other least important thing and kind of do this show a little bit out of order since we have been doing it this way so far. The sticky hands situation. the way that, first of all, it's a dumb rule in general. And second of all, it is legislated even dumber because it is an arbitrary sliding scale. The same umpire, obviously the Mets have been victimized of this with an all-time great pitcher in Max Scherzer, who deserves the benefit of the doubt, a currently great pitcher in Edwin Diaz, who deserves the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion. And yes, Drew Smith has also been in the mix, but the Mets have been victimized by this a lot. And they've been on the unfortunate end of it where they have not always been given the benefit of the doubt. And now you have the same umpire who ejected Edwin Diaz without giving him a chance to explain or wash his hands or anything, allows another pitcher to go and wash his hands. And I think it is an absolute joke. Again, I think the rule is dumb. I'll get into why in a second, but forget about it. If this is the rule, it needs to be handled the same way. The case needs to be, your hands are sticky. Okay, sorry. Go wash them. Okay, now they're not sticky. Now you can pitch. If that's how it is for some people, it has to be for everyone. It has to be. This is nonsense.
I think, again, the fact that nothing is universal with the entire thing, and it comes down to, like, when I have to hear excuses of it's the stickiest hands I've ever felt. Like, according to what? Like, to you, to your opinion? Like, what about others?
You make an indelicate joke there, but I'm not going to.
You probably could. But, like, it's so dumb that, again, it doesn't shock me that it's the same umpire who allows a guy to leave to go wash his hands or whatever. And I know you were getting shit on Twitter last night from some people that were choosing to be difficult or whatever, to say, oh, well, Max was able to go and wash it. It's, you can't put it like that, but it's like, yeah,
well, let me just jump in for a second. Sorry to interrupt you. I forgot that Max was given the opportunity to wash his hands, but it doesn't change the fact. So I'll admit that I was kind of wrong when I said that nobody has given the Mets that opportunity, but it doesn't change the fact that he washed his hands and they were like, oh, your hands are good. And then they were like, but there's still a sticky thing on your glove. So now you're out. And it's like, you don't think Max Scherzer has two gloves? To me, it's like, if you check, they check the hands, they check the glove, they check the belt, they check the hat, they check everything all at once. Yeah. So if his hands are sticky, wash your hands. If the glove is sticky, get a new glove. Let's go play ball. To me, that's how that should be done. Now, if it's sticky again after that, then maybe you throw them out.
Yes.
But I think if you're going to let them wash their hands, which Max did, he should have also been said, oh, you know what? It's a little sticky on the glove too. You got another glove. You're going to have to change that out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that I feel like giving this much power to the umpire is improper. And the fact that we're making it a pure judgment call without following the same set of rules for every situation, I think that's very stupid. I think you should say, hey, go wash up. Hey, clean the glove. Hey, lose the glove. Like, whatever. And then let's move forward. Like, I also think it's bad for the game in the sense where, at the time we're talking about Max Scherzer, who, yes, not who he was, but it's like, you're telling Max Scherzer to leave on a whim off of that. And now you have, a non-warmed up pitcher who could come in and maybe he's fired up too quickly and then he gets hurt and things of that. So it's like, it's a bad snowball effect too. But the fact that it comes down to the umpire's judgment and doesn't have to follow a set rule, I think that is very dumb. And we've said multiple times again that baseball just can never get out of its own way, can never figure things out. They can't figure out the ball. They can't figure out a rule. They want to change different rules when they can't focus on the things that are really the problem. They don't know how to market players. They don't know how to do anything. And it's like we act angered or we act shocked when these things happen. We're like, are we though? Because it's Major League Baseball and they don't know what the hell they're doing ever. So we have to talk about it because it's topical and we should give our opinion on it. But at the same time, it's like, are we really shocked? Are we?
Are we?
Are we?
Are we?
Are we?
I'll go back into the comments. A lot of people
kind of like Bill Maher, really
have a lot of different thoughts here. Well, I mean, not different thoughts. Everybody agrees. Jeff Cohen saying consistency would be nice. Yes, wouldn't it?
Would be.
Rosie saying Martino's explanation. It's the difference between sticky and tacky. That's the deciding factor. And then very astutely adds a shrugging emoji on the end because Rosie, I love you. I'm not saying this towards you. I appreciate you bringing this up because I didn't see it because Martino blocked me because he's an idiot, but he's an idiot. There is no difference between sticky and tacky. It's the same thing. They're just two different words. They're synonym. Like it's not. There's no actual difference between those words. That's like is something wet or damp? It's what there's moisture. Yeah, if the glove don't stick, you must have quit. I love that from Stevie Mac. And with two comments back to back here, if you don't have a uniform rule for everybody, it's absolutely useless and does a disservice to the umpires who are already under fire, which goes along with what you were just saying. And he followed it up by saying, you can't have an arbitrary rule and then suspend someone for 10 games without being allowed to bring up another pitcher. And that's the thing. You can have a rule. If the rule is, if your hands are sticky, you're out of the game and you're suspended for 10 games and you can't bring up another pitcher, then that's the rule. I think that's a dumb rule, but then that's the rule and that happens to everyone. Period. Full stop. No maneuvering. No ifs, ands, or buts. No gray area. We checked your hands are too sticky, and you're out of the game. You're suspended for 10 games. No more replacements on the roster. Boom. Done. If that's the rule, I think it's dumb, but at least that's the rule. The problem is that's not the rule. They seem to have discretion, and you can't have discretion. Discretion is the opposite of rules. And I tweeted this, and this is where we can leave this conversation. I kind of teased it out. I said to you, I think the rule is dumb the way that it stands. And the reason why I think the rule overall is dumb is because what is the rule trying to accomplish? Right? That is ultimately the thing, right? You sit there and you go, oh, is this a rule designed for a player's safety? Is this a rule designed for, an even playing field? What's the point of this rule? And to me, I think the rule is too punitive. And the example that I gave on Twitter is that a few years ago, I went to Iceland on vacation. Iceland is a party place on the weekends. Their clubs and their bars stay open until 5:00 in the morning. They stay open until sunrise. And when you leave, they don't have an open container law. So if you have one of their cups and their glasses, there is a table where you can just pour your drink into a disposable cup, and you leave their glassware behind, and you can take your drink on your merry way. But there is also, when you get outside, because it is a party place, because people have been drinking for hours, when you get outside, there are cops everywhere. And I watched people walk out of a bar and walk towards a car. And the cop walked over to them, and they were like, no, call a cab. And your car will be here tomorrow. You can come get your car later when you sober up. And the thought was, they are allowing those people, the rule is, what they're trying to enforce is safety. They're not trying to play gotcha. They're not trying to, like they do here in the States, where it's like a cop will watch you get in the car, start the car, pull out of a parking spot, and then pull you over and give you a DUI. Is that with your safety in mind, or is that with a ticket quota in mind? That's punitive for the sake of being punitive. It's not with anybody's safety being the main focus there. And so I think that's where this rule is being legislated the wrong way. If you're sitting there and guys are telling you it's bad for my arm and it's bad for the batter if I can't get a grip on the ball, you guys don't have consistent grip. And they're like, well, we don't want you to get spin rate. And you're like, fine, I'm not trying to get spin rate. I'm just trying to grip the ball so that I don't kill anyone when I throw it 100 miles an hour and so that my elbow doesn't fall off. If they're saying, okay, then the middle ground should be your hands are sticky, your glove is sticky, wash your hands and change your glove and go out there and pitch with the balls that we're giving you. Because then that is the Iceland approach. It is everybody's safety is being covered here. You don't have an advantage and it's all good. Just go out there and pitch. Instead, they're like, gotcha. Got another one. Chalk up another one to the spider tack police. That's nobody's paying to watch that. We're paying to watch Max Scherzer and Edwin Diaz pitch. We're not paying to watch the umpires come out and rub somebody's fucking earlobe. It's ridiculous. The accomplishment is to give umpires a bigger chance to abuse their power, a slight ego boost to the MLB Umpires Association. Maybe. maybe, but it's nonsense. So it's in my estimation, it's a bad rule, Ibby, and it's a bad rule, and it is enforced even worse. Yes. And so that makes a bad rule. I mean, it's bad to the nth degree because I think it's dumb to begin with, and I think the way that it's enforced is even stupider. So
there's zero letter to that given law, and that's already a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. So let's Stevie Mac got to rub more of that secret Jersey slop mud on them balls. Yep. Only from the Delaware River, Gat. It's the only place you can get. It's a secret location. Don't tell anybody where it is. God forbid you just make a sticky ball out of the ball. It's 2024. I don't know why we're acting like it's 1850 and we can't figure out a better way to get the balls.
America's pastime, baby. America's pastime.
America's pastime. Yep. That's why nobody likes baseball anymore. Anyway, this seems like a good point to put a pin in the Lindor MVP, the 62 record, the sticky hands. We'll take a pause. It is a quick break that we need just for the audio version of the show. Get some ads in there. All the regulars, you know the drill. Just a 30-second break. When we come back, we will talk about the bullpen. We will talk about Sean Manaea, our tribal chief. Acknowledge him.
One's up.
We will have to inevitably talk a little bit about Pete Alonso, and we'll talk about the potential September call-ups and where the Mets might go, where the Mets should go. All of that and more coming up next when we return from our break. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, courtesy of the Brella Sports Network. We'll be right back. Yo, we are back with Til Mets Do Us Part. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, like we are each and every single week, starting at 5:30 Eastern or thereabouts. Started a couple minutes late here today. I'll own that. That was me. I had a couple things going on. Got a last-minute work call. Had to jump in and take care of some business, but we are taking care of our Mets business right here, right now, talking Mets with all of you lovely folks in the comments. Of course, if you are here, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to turn notifications on. We are creeping slowly, very slowly,
very slowly,
1,000 subscriber mark. We're not giving away the Edwin Diaz autograph ball until we get to 1,000. And right now we're still almost, I was basically 200 away. So I know it's less than 200, but basically 200. So tell your friends. We'll hold on to this thing. We'll hold on to this Edwin Diaz signed baseball for a very long time if we have to. We're not giving it, if he has promised that he is not giving it away until we get to 1,000. That said, if you're watching on Twitter, you can go ahead and retweet. You can go ahead and follow us on Twitter and Instagram and even TikTok at Til Mets Do Us Part. If you miss any part of the show, you can always jump back in on our YouTube channel as soon as we're done with the live stream. It exists there forever. You could watch anything you missed. And if you don't want to do or can't do any of that, it is all good. You can just listen to the show starting about an hour or so after we're done here, wherever it is you get your podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all of those places and more. And while you're there, hell, subscribe to the podcast there too, because again, the more bases you have covered, the more opportunities you have to not miss the show when a new one drops, either live or otherwise. Go ahead.
Also, if you haven't in the past, do us a favor also, whatever you listen on, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, wherever, make sure you head on over there. If you do listen to us on the audio side, the podcast version, as opposed to the show, head on over there. Give us 5 stars. If you want to leave a rating, if you want to leave a comment, leave a review, that'd be very, very much appreciated. There are some funny ones over there. I'm still trying to figure out who one of them is. But just leave us 5 stars. It goes a long way in helping us grow even more. So I know we're always talking about the YouTube side because we do want to grow there the most, but it still helps the audio side if you leave a 5-star review and you leave something nice in the comments. So yeah, thank you so much.
That is a good point. We haven't talked about that in a very long time because we have been focusing a lot on the YouTube, but all of that stuff matters. Algorithms matter. I don't care to understand how they matter. That'll probably be my downfall.
You have to, John.
Be my downfall in life, Ibby, and I will gladly have that be my downfall. It's fine. I can't be a slave to an AI algorithm. It just will not happen. Before we get back into the show, quick word here from Manscaped. Since Ibby just did all the talking, I'll jump in with the Manscaped read. You can get 20% off and free shipping site-wide at manscaped.com with the code TMDUP. That stands for Til Mets Do Us Part. Once again, Til Mets Do Us Part. The code TMDUP gets you 20% off and free shipping site-wide at manscaped.com. I don't know if Stephanie's still here. She was here earlier, but let me just say this about Manscaped. I say it every week, but it's the truth. You may not think that manscaping is for you. I say you should try it. You should just give it a go. I think the person in your life will appreciate it if you are a little bit more manicured in areas. Stephanie is here. She goes, I'm here, LOL. I think the person in your life will appreciate it if you're just a little bit more manicured. And whatever that might look like to you, you might want to just trim your chest hair a little bit to a more manageable length. You may want to more effectively trim your beard. I mean, my beard I take pride in grooming my beard. It takes a lot of work, but it's a lot less work with Manscaped. So, get your hands on some of this stuff. And I always say it every week, Ibby, but it's true. There are some things you just need to do once you reach a certain age, like trimming your nose hairs, trimming your ear hair. And you should do that if you're a dude. I don't care if you're like, hey, I'd rather leave everything else the way it is. Okay, fine. Well, nobody wants to see hair coming out of your ears. Go ahead and clean that shit up. Keep it tight because you look like a weird creature. Nobody likes sweaters in the summer too. Just remember that. Nobody likes sweaters. Listen, you could probably tell by the facial hair that I have. Like I'm Italian. My hair grows. It's dark and it's thick. But I like having chest hair. I keep chest hair, but I buzz it down, man. I buzz it down because I got to keep it. I just pictured, because you have the beard, if anyone in here, I'm sure a majority of you have, and John, I'm sure you have. I know what you're going to say. If you've seen the other guys. Yep. The other guys, it's like, I know you see the beard, you think I'm probably hairy all over. Pause. Shaved. Like, what's that guy? Is that Brett Gelman, right? I think that's the actor's name, Brett Gelman. Well, the second you said that, it's the first thing I thought of. But yeah, you see the beard, you probably think I'm pretty hairy down there. Too funny. Shaved. That movie is very funny, and he is hilarious. Before we get back into the conversation about our New York Mets, let's talk about independent safes. Independent safes, John, as always, they are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes, fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit independentsafes.com today for security that stands strong. And like I've said, until we hit 1,000, that Edwin Diaz ball is going to stay in my independent safe, locked away, key stowed away as well. I won't throw the key away because eventually we are going to hit that 1K mark, and I will give away a signed Edwin Diaz ball. But until that happens, the Edwin Diaz ball will stay in the Independence safe. So again, $99, free shipping. It's all $99. No matter what, you get free shipping. Just make sure you tell them that Til Mets sent you. I love it. Keep it locked away. It might be in there for a long time, maybe. I don't know. What do you think is doing this? What do you think is preventing people from jumping on board? Do you think people don't like clicking buttons online? Do you think people are afraid to subscribe? I think people, when I think about this a lot, because I'm always trying to grow or whatever when it comes to the show and the channel, and whether it's on Twitter or whatever, it's a consistency thing. But at the same time, I think people are extremely lazy. And again, I'm not trying to but it's the truth. I think people, when you look at people online, because I'll admit I do it sometimes as well, and it shows where everyone is. When something is not right in front of them, and you say all you gotta do is just this one step, people are like, yeah, I don't want to do it. And they won't do it. But it could be the smallest of things. It's like clicking one link that's going to bring you right there because you already have the app on your phone. But a lot of people just choose not to do it, which makes the whole thing that much more difficult. And that's why I always talk about trying to figure out, and people say, oh, there's something to figure out when it comes to YouTube algorithms. Like, no, things get seeded out a certain way, certain hashtags, certain things like remaining topical, certain words. Like, there's a lot of things that go into it. But I really think that a lot of times people don't hop on board because they don't want to make that one click. It's as crazy as it sounds, but where I come from, that's called lazy. I think you're right. This is some breaking news here, Armand. Astros beat the Phillies 10-0. So I'll take that. I will take that every day.
Thank you, Armand.
I think you're right, because sometimes you go to Europe, and obviously I've been fortunate enough to go to Europe a lot over the last 2 years for work. Their towers, their cell towers, their internet is a little slower there than what we're used to here in the States. It's because we were all injected with 5G by the government, so everything moves really fast here. Of course, I'm joking, but we have better towers. We have LTE, we have 5G. Some places you go, and it's like they're living in a 3G world. And I know that's such a dumb statement to make, but it makes a big difference. Like, I've been over there where I've used all my data and didn't pay for an international plan because I was only going to be there for, 5 days, and it doesn't pay to pay for the month or whatever. When you get throttled back from 5G to 3G, it's like opening up a fucking letter versus like trying to pilot a spaceship. And so the reason why I bring that up is because I understand like how people get lazy, because like I'll click on a link and I'm like, go.
Yes. It's true.
So like I do understand how people can get a little lazy as you get spoiled by technology of like, it's one click. You're like, yeah, but could it be no clicks? Like, no, it's impossible for it to be no clicks. I've made it as simple as I can make it. It's one click. If I could bring my phone to your house and let you click it, I would, but that's not how this works. So
I one more thing. I also think that a lot of times people get caught up in what they're used to during the regular season when it comes to taking in information, and sometimes they're a little bit less apt to trying things. Where I feel that a lot of our growth over the last handful of years has come at a time where everyone is super dedicated, if you will, to finding every bit of information that they can and talking points, which is always the off season. And that's when we're talking about trades, when we're talking about signings and guys that are available and what might happen. And so I think that goes into it as well. So I expect, especially this off season, I'm expecting a lot of growth for the channel, because we're going to be talking about a lot of potential changes for the team. Because again, as we've said before, with a lot of one-year deal players, some might be extended, which is probably one we could talk about now. But a lot are going to be filtered out, which means new players are going to be coming in, which is going to be interesting for a lot of people, and they're going to want that information. And odds are they're going to come here.
Douglas Barnes saying, you got throttled back to 3G. I have to deal with 2G when I use up my data. Honestly, it might be 0G. It's slow as shit. It's brutal. It has made me want to pay. Like, I could be leaving the next day, and I'm not one of those people. Like, I am on my phone a lot. I travel a lot, and I try to promote the show and give takes and stuff. But I am not one of those people who lives on my phone. I do like to be engaged with the people that I'm spending time with and stuff like that. But sometimes you're sitting there at the airport and there's just really nothing for you to do, and you're like, man, I really wish I could connect to Wi-Fi. I guess there's Wi-Fi at the airport, but you know what I mean? You're like, I really wish I could connect to some Wi-Fi so I could look at anything on the internet while I'm at this coffee shop alone or whatever it might be. So maybe it's 2G, maybe it's lower than that. It's brutal regardless. So Ibby, you kind of alluded to it, but I'm going to let you make the choice. Talk about the positive or talk about the negative. The positive is Sean Manaea, which you alluded to already. The negative would be the bullpen. Which way do you want to go?
Let's start with the positive. Let's talk about the starting pitching, which has been strong, and then we'll filter that into the bullpen. But look, we have to talk about Sean Manaea, because I did a segment on the show 2 or 3 weeks ago now, talking about Sean Manaea and the need for an ace for this team, for someone to step up, and what he had been doing his previous 7 starts and everything that had been going on with him in terms of stepping up, where we had Sevy at the start of the year, who was viewed as, this is the Luis Severino that we remember. Like, this is the guy that's stepping up. And then he kind of faltered a little bit because he came back down to earth. Maybe he was a little bit tired, more innings, what have you. Sean Manaea has been on another level since the All-Star break. And looking at some numbers, and I just redid the graphic because I like the way it looked. So we got Sean Manaea, the ace. His last 6 starts, 37.2 innings pitched, 24 hits, 12 earned runs, 7 walks, 48 strikeouts, a 2.87 ERA with a 5.31 OPS against. The man has been on another level. Multiple 10+ strikeout outings over those 6 starts as well, dating back to, again, the previous month and a half, really. He's been at another level. And I know people have been doing breakdowns when it comes to him and how it comes with Chris Sale, watching video and watching tape on Chris Sale and adapting things for his game as well. Look, the fact that he's also gotten the walks under control. I believe at one point he was at 10%, a little bit over 10% when it came to his walk rate. Now he's more so, it's getting better. It's still not the greatest, but still it's dipping down. It's more so in the 8s now, but again, trending in the right direction. And the stuff coming from the side, everything about what he's been doing to this point, to me, is something that you can look at and say, I would love to have this guy moving forward. Now, I understand people don't like rewarding off of one-year deals, especially if money gets too high. We'll see what happens in the offseason when it comes to the type of money that a pitcher of Manaya's ilk could bring in as a 32 going on 33-year-old lefty, and how the market really differs for a lot of guys when it comes to said money. Quick example, as a 33-year-old, by the time he's a free agent, can Sean Manaea pull in what Sonny Gray got as a 34-year-old? Can he get $70+ million or whatever over 3 or 4 years? Could he get that? Maybe. Does that price him out for the Mets? I don't know. We're going to see, but I think he's doing everything he has to turn down that option, to decline that option of $12 million, and he can make himself at least $20+ million. The question is going to be, does David Stearns view that as an option for this team, or does he think, hey, thank you for what you did, but I'm going to go out and find the next Sean Manaea because that's what I do, and I'm going to spend that money elsewhere to better this team? Either way, it's going to be interesting, but right now, where we are, Sean Manaea is him. He is the tribal chief, and we acknowledge, as always, one's up. So, yeah, shout out to him, man. It's been awesome to watch.
Absolutely. Just real quick, for D, who's catching tonight? Me. Surprise. It's me. I got to go. I got to get to Arizona. No, I actually have not seen the full lineup. I know they did some wonky things, and Marte's batting third and Nimmo's hitting fourth. I did not see the full lineup yet. We'll pull it up here in a second. We'll figure it all out. I brought this comment from Stephanie up a little bit prematurely while you were talking. She says, she said this last week too, and I get it. She said, I'd bring Manaea and Sevy back. Manaea and Severino have certainly pitched themselves, each one of them, into not only a great position for themselves financially, but they deserve to be back. They deserve, like, you like the idea of like rewarding people for showing out, doing their thing.
Especially,
but like I've said before, you could make a case that all the guys who were on one-year deals, Severino, Manaea, Bader, and even to a lesser degree, JD Martinez, have all played well enough to come back, but you have to know which guys to move on from and when.
Correct.
And I am not going to be annoyed if the Mets bring back any of them. It will not bother me at all if the Mets bring back any or all of them. It's not my money. I trust David Stearns. If that's how they want to build a team, go for it. It's all good. I'm with it. But I will stand by what I said before, which is, if you told me, Ibby, I could only have one, I think Sean Manaea is the best investment over the next, let's say, 3 or 4 years, because I think they're all in the same ballpark. Obviously, it's apples to oranges in some ways, because you're talking about, 2 pitchers, 2 position players, one guy who's really just a DH, not a position player, blah, blah, blah. But, they're all in a position where if you take JD Martinez out of it for a second, they're all in a position where they're probably going to get a multi-year deal of around the same length. You're looking at 3 or 4 years. And I think Manaea has the best upside over that 3 or 4 years. I think he has the best skill set as somebody who has pitched out of the bullpen too. You don't want to turn around and pay a guy $70 million and then have him be a relief pitcher. But I would rather have the ability to do that if he falls off a little bit than a guy like Severino, who's never really been in that role. You like to get the versatility out of it. Plus, you like the left-handedness. Plus, you love, which Douglas Barnes got a lot of credit for saying this, but I agree, the lack of walks has been huge, especially for this staff. You love the tricky arm angle. You love the strikeouts. Like, to me, Manaea is doing all of it. Now, yes, Severino has the velocity edge, but, and again, if they want to bring back both of them, I'm fine with it. But I think that Manaea is the guy that they should bring back above everybody else if it comes down to it. So, look, he's been great. Absolutely, absolutely terrific. Let's talk about the bullpen really quick, which has not been great. There's no good segue to it. I wish it's been better. Nunez should help. Buto had his first little stumble. Reed Garrett, outside of a good 6-week stretch, like I said last week, has actually had a terrible year. You need him to be at least serviceable. Ottavino's still here. Brazoban got sent down. I understood why he wasn't really good. But the fact that Ottavino has, forget 9 lives, he has 90 lives. This guy is stuck around through more nonsense than I could even imagine. So, Ivy, the bullpen's not been good. The bullpen just needs to be good enough right now. The bullpen just has to have this.
And the sad part is it's not even doing that. Like that's
I know. It just needs to be good enough. Like, can we just get some semblance of consistency for the love of God?
I don't even know where I want to start. Like, that's why to come back what I was saying before.
There's no segue. Like, I literally just had to be like, let's talk about the bullpen because there's nothing good to say.
Like, looking back on what I said before about Mendoza and sticking with Buto, it's like, where else are you going to go? Like, this is the guy that's been your workhorse, like the guy you trusted. So basically, you're putting a guy out there and saying, look, I'm going to live and die with this no matter what. But you look at some of the guys that were brought in, and it's just like, Maton's had his ups and downs, and Brazoban, we've seen that recently, and Stanek, like not working the way you thought it might. And like, these are guys that you were hoping that would flash for you, and they really haven't. And this is why I said before, why I have my reservations, because I don't know if this bullpen can do enough to provide for this team, which is so awful. Because if you would have said to any Mets fan at the beginning of the season and said, look, at one point of this season, you're going to have Severino, Sean Manaea, and David Peterson firing on all cylinders, doing work. But it's no guarantee, even though they might be going 6, 7, 8 innings, don't count on a win. It's like Mets fans are like, are you kidding me? Like, we just reshifted and reworked this bullpen, and you're going to tell me that I'm getting legit work out of David Peterson and Sean Manaea is the real deal, and Luis Severino is back for the most part, and you're going to tell me that this bullpen still isn't providing enough for me? But that's where we are. Like, these guys are firing, and that's why I said, like, it's on the offense too, because you have to score runs. But to me, I am nervous when this team even scores 6 runs and they're up 6-1. Say, I'm still sweating things out in the 7th inning when I'm watching. I'm like, Christ, like a couple of walks here, a guy hits one over the fence. This is going to be a ball game, and we're going to lose. Like, it was frustrating enough when it was a closer game, 2-0 in the 8th, and we lose. Like, that's frustrating in itself because that sucks. But even when we're up more, like, I mean, I didn't watch it last night, so I'm not sure. Like, when they poured it on after I fell asleep, was there a scare with the bullpen or no?
I would say no. I don't think it ever got scary.
Couple of walks here, but make you start thinking about it. I don't know.
There was the stumbling block of the literal stumbling block of Reed Garrett. They hit it was like a comebacker off the end of the bat, and he kind of like literally fell over. Like, he thought so he got himself into trouble. Maton actually pitched pretty good. Like, Maton's been great.
Okay.
Maton pitched well. He gave up some hits, but like it was all weak contact. To me, I wasn't sweating out the game. I was bummed when, Manaea didn't get a chance to finish the inning and gives up the 2-run home run to Corbin Carroll. To me, that was like, all right, they got too close just with that alone. I didn't sweat the rest of the game. I figured that they had enough of a lead at that point. But if the Mets scored a couple less runs, I would have been worried. If that's a 5-3 game, that game is teetering on the brink. The fact that they were up 7 runs at one point was the thing that made me feel like, I don't know if Arizona really has the juice to come all the way back. Rosie saying, I don't trust Garrett in late innings. No, you shouldn't. No,
and you shouldn't. And I know this was said in our group chat last night. Carson from Mets Weekly brought up, why does Reed Garrett always look like he's going to vomit, like the face that he has? And I said this weeks ago, well before the injury. I had said that I know a lot of times it's used as a positive when people like use the meme or whatever, like, so-and-so's got that dog in them. And I'm just like, I had been saying for a while, once it was clear that he had been overworked, which he was, like, let's be honest, like, he got overworked. So it's not a shocker, but at the same time, like, him going out there I looked at a guy that looked like a dog. And I'm saying that using the negative connotation because I was like, this guy just looks like he doesn't have it. And it doesn't look like he wants to find it either. Like that's the way it's been coming across to me for a while now. So when I see him come in, yes, Rosie, I'm with you. I don't trust him at all either because I feel like whatever we have that's in our favor, it's going right back because he's coming on the mound. He's going to give it right to him. Like that's the way I have felt with him. So anyone else, I don't know if I want to say Ottavino, but like to the point where it's like I am very, very uneasy when he's on the mound.
I agree. He's very hard to watch. And that is acknowledging some of the great things that he did. Like, and he was an integral part of the bullpen until he was overworked. But just keeping it 100, being honest, like he's had a bad year. He had a good, I don't know, from 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. He had a good stretch, an excellent stretch to start the season. And then it was just like, oh my God, he's very, very, he inspires no confidence. He has me worried constantly when he comes into the game. And part of the reason is the thing that plagues the whole team right now, and that's the walks. He walks way too many people. He walks people constantly, and that does not inspire a lot of confidence, and it shouldn't. Ibby, I don't know what else we can say about the bullpen, to be honest. They just have to be better. So I don't want to beat a dead horse. I want to move on to the September call-ups.
Yeah.
It's going to happen in a couple days. They're going to call up 2 players. The obvious one seems to be Tyler McGill. That seems like something that's going to happen. And I guess technically it has, if he's going to pitch maybe Friday, it has to happen before, and maybe they'll make some other moves around that, whatever. Right. But the other one to me, I think it has to be Acuna. I think the position player has to be Acuna. The only other person that I will accept at this point is probably Luke Ritter. And I know Carson loves Luke Ritter and all the stuff he's done with the power. I don't know about you. I don't want to see DJ Stewart.
I fear that we're going to.
Beatty getting hurt takes him out of the equation.
And it was going to be Beatty.
I don't like Beatty, but it was going to be Beatty, and that would have been better than DJ Stewart. It should be Acuna. Acuna can pinch run. Acuna can come in late in games and play defense. If he gives you anything offensively, you're better off. But no, thank you, DJ Stewart. We have a better version of DJ Stewart. We have Jesse Winker now. I don't want it to be DJ Stewart. I think it needs to be somebody who brings you something different. I think it needs to be Acuna. I think it should be Acuna.
I think that I'm with you on McGill, of course, because it's prior to September. They could, however things go there, they could finagle that if they wanted to.
Right, because today's the 28th, so it'll be the 30th when they have to call him up. So then maybe
they could. But again, you're looking at that because don't think you're not getting Brandon Sproat. You're not getting anybody else. That's not happening. So
no, what's going to happen is McGill's going to come up. He's going to pitch, and then when Blackburn comes back from the IL, McGill's going to stay on the roster probably, and Brazaban's going to stay on the roster, and those will be the pitchers. It's just because of the situation, they need to have him up earlier than the first.
And I'm with you because I still have this fear that they might look at it and say, we want Acuna to keep getting at bats. And let's be honest, he's had a very, very up and down in a hitter friendly place, a very up and down, uninspiring type of season where it's like, this guy isn't going to do much. But to your point, you're not asking him to do all that much. You're asking him to look, if this is a guy that's going to come up because it's an extra spot, play a little defense, maybe steal a couple of bags. Maybe you get a start once in a while. God forbid someone gets hurt, needs a breather, what have you. He does have multiple position eligibility. But again, you're not going to see him at short because you're hoping Lindor's playing every day. So you get some time at second. Maybe you spice in some time in center field, what have you. But I think he makes sense. I fear that they might say, we're going to go with the veteran mainly because we want him to keep playing every day. At this point, with where Acuna is, I think you have to give him that cup of coffee to see if he can provide anything, even if it's just from the defensive side. Can he come up and play defense? Can he not do what Perdomo just did? Can you at least be competent at your position that we put you out on in a big September run. Like, let's see something along those lines. I agree with you that it should be him. I did make a thing today because I know a lot of people also were thinking about somebody else when it came to a call up, because they were saying, well, I don't want DJ Stewart, but I still want a lefty bat because it's not going to be Beatty. So we'll go down on the farm real quick, and we're going to talk about one guy who's had a little bit of an up and down. We're going to talk about Drew Gilbert real quick. Drew Gilbert's back. And his last 7 games, he's got 3 hits, 5 homers, 7 RBIs, a 217, 357, 609 slash with a 966 OPS. And his weighted runs created plus in the last week is 141. Now, the reason why I went with the last week is because his entire August has been very ugly. But I know people like recency and they want things and they want to hear things of the now. So as we're trending towards September, people see the highlights like, wow, he's got a bunch of home runs and he's got these RBIs and maybe he can be the guy that can come in and play some defense if you want. Look, you got some guys in the outfield already. I think they want to stay consistent with Gilbert when it comes to playing time because he missed the majority of the year. I'm happy that he's playing good the last week, but I just told you his last week, he's got a 170 or 141 weighted runs created plus in the last week. For the month of August, his weighted runs created plus is sliced in half. It's in the 70s. It's not that good. He's batting over the month of August. He's batting $190. And again, I know average isn't everything, but still the other peripherals, not good. Okay. So again, I think he needs more time. I love Drew Gilbert. I love the idea of Drew Gilbert. I think Drew Gilbert can help this team probably more so next year. And if they decide to call him up, I'm going to root for him. But I don't think he's going to be that guy, and I don't think it's the right time. Different story if this was a guy that was able to play a majority of the season in AAA. That's not the case. So, yes, I'm of the thought process. It's going to be vet versus rookie here, and you might be looking at DJ Stewart versus Luis Angel Acuna. I opt for Acuna. I fear it might be Stewart.
So here's the thing. Drew Gilbert's not on the 40-man roster, so it's not going to happen. There's no reason for it to happen. I know you can do roster manipulation. I know you can put a guy on the 60-day IL. Maybe you do that with Beatty. His season's over anyway, and you open up a roster spot that way. Drew Gilbert has been hurt for a lot of the season. Drew Gilbert has had an up and down season in the minors when he has played. I don't think bringing him up to the major leagues at this point is the best option. The other thing is, I think, and I've said this to you before, I've said this on the show, I think that Gilbert is a better prospect in terms of a long-term major league starter than Acuna is. I don't love Acuna. So, I think maybe he'll be okay. I don't think he's going to be a superstar. I think he has the name pedigree and that's about it. So I don't really want to rush somebody up here like Gilbert, who's not ready. I'd rather roll the dice on the guy who's played the entire season at AAA, albeit to up and down results. But I think Acuna makes more sense than Gilbert. Aunt Rivera saying, I think Joe DeMeo said they have an open spot on the 40-man. Okay, if they have an open spot on the 40-man, I didn't catch that. So if they do, that makes it easier. Now, you would have to add him to the 40-man, but you wouldn't have to remove somebody or manipulate the roster in any way in order to do that. But the point remains, Gilbert's not on the 40-man roster. Acuna is on the 40-man roster. You're right, dude. DJ is on the 40-man roster too. Obviously, they could just go that route. My thing is, I don't understand what DJ Stewart bring. I see the comments of like, well, the Mets already have a lot of people who can play the outfield. They need another person who can play the infield. I see the comments of like, well, I'm not sure about Marte long-term, and his health and his ability to do. So what does DJ Stewart bring you that these guys don't bring you? You have an everyday DH, JD Martinez. If you're going to give him the day off, you're probably going to put Vientos there or Winker there. Then that muddies the waters because Winker is left-handed. Like I said, Winker is a better version of DJ Stewart. He's a better hitter. He's a better fielder. He's a better everything than DJ Stewart. So I think that's redundant. Then you look at, you do have to get Marte at bats. You have to get Nimmo at bats. Obviously, Nimmo's the starter. You have to get Harrison Bader at bats. You have to get Tyrone Taylor at bats.
Yeah.
Who's DJ Stewart playing for? Now, if your only thought is, I would rather have DJ Stewart riding the bench playing sparingly than Acuna, I understand that because DJ Stewart is the veteran with no future here and Acuna is the prospect. But Ibby, I would rather have the guy who actually adds something to the team. Wouldn't you? Aren't you trying to win? Aren't you trying to make the playoffs? Like, I don't care that, like, I don't know, Acuna might miss out on 20 games. That's what we're talking about here. Basically, like, it's like 20 more games. The season ends for Syracuse on, like, September 22nd. Like, bring up Acuna. Acuna's the guy. He's to me, despite the fact that he hasn't had a great year, he's a no-brainer. He is an absolute no-brainer. I don't know why you would bring up DJ. DJ Stewart offers nothing. He offers nothing to this team that the team doesn't already have. Why would you go that route? I
agree. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find DJ Stewart's stats in the minor leagues because it's like I wanted to see it. No, I know, but the point I'm getting at is I wouldn't be shocked if he was like tearing the cover off the ball. That's the leg they would have to stand on, even though I know that it shouldn't matter the AAA level because of the stark difference between the two places and the offensive driven nature of it. But I was just curious if he is doing anything, but I haven't seen anything. So I'm assuming he's not doing all that much. So it's like, my point was, I look at it more as they might opt for the vet instead. I hope I'm wrong because at this point, just see what Acuna can do, because I know, look, fan thoughts on him, I know, are low, and I don't know what he is viewed as organizationally. I'm not sure where they stand on him, but at this point, would it hurt you to just give it a try?
No.
Okay, he has some versatility. He offers some speed. Again, because the difference there is when you look at Acuna versus Stewart, I think ideally it's like, what do both offer? And you can say, well, they might say we want Stewart, another left-handed bat, guy we can plug in late. Maybe he can hit a home run. And then you look at Acuna, you're like, well, this guy can play a little bit of defense. He can steal a base, what have you. But it's like both of them are very limited in what they can offer. I guess it's going to come down to what they feel that they want more of.
That's what I was trying to say before. Like, I understand that, like, you're not bringing up the second coming here. And if your only thought is, let's go with the veteran, let's give the prospect more time in the minor leagues. But isn't the goal to win at the major leagues? I don't think DJ Stewart brings you any closer to winning. I think if you bring up DJ Stewart, you're bringing him up because you're like, we're comfortable with DJ Stewart sitting on the bench and in the next 30 games or whatever it is at that point, 28 games, playing 3 times. And we're not super comfortable with Acuna only playing 3 times. Right. I say bring up the guy with upside, bring up the guy with versatility, bring up the guy who might give you a little bit of a boost. He's young. He's going to play with energy. He's going to play with his hair on fire. And, like, you know, you got Jeff Cohen saying you need speed. You got Jeff Cohen saying late inning pinch runner is needed. Acuna is the guy. Douglas saying the team needs speed. Call up somebody who can steal a base. That's why it has to be Acuna, ready or not. Darren saying Acuna offers versatility, speed, and defense. Acuna offers, however limited, he offers something. DJ Stewart offers you someone to keep the bench warm.
Agreed.
That's it. He's not offering you anything. So that's why, to me, I'm afraid that you're right, but I'm hoping.
I don't want to be right.
I'm hoping you're wrong, and I'm hoping that previous regimes, recent regimes, would 100% bring up DJ Stewart. I'm really hoping that David Stearns sees otherwise. Because, again, if your goal is to inject some energy into this team, bring up the young guy. If your goal is to be a more versatile team, bring up the more versatile player. If your goal is to be fast and try to make them things happen, bring up the fast guy. DJ Stewart is a worse version of players we already have, period, full stop. This is This is a good one. I mean, it's very specific, but it's true from Carlos Ortiz. Acuna beats the Braves on the bases and puts the Mets in the playoffs. Like, you could see that. Like, couldn't you see like Acuna stealing a base in a consequential game that gives the Mets a big win? I think that's more. I think that's way more likely than DJ Stewart trying to run into home runs. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Look, we can get out of here now, or we can very briefly talk about Pete Alonso because he keeps coming up. Do you want to talk about Pete Alonso, or do you want to go home?
I'll put it at this.
Okay.
If we talk about Pete Alonso, how long do you think we're going to be talking about Pete Alonso? Like, do you have something specific you want to hit on, or because I know you did have a back and forth. If you're going to be, are you going to be bringing that up?
I would like to on this forum just bring up my point.
Okay,
on Alonso.
That's fine.
That I brought up online that you've seen.
Yeah, sure, good.
And so the point with this stuff, and I'm the biggest defender. I say, let's not talk about it to the offseason, and I talk about it now. But
it's becoming a brand new segment.
But because people are losing sight. They're missing the forest through the trees because people are going, I don't want Alonso, get me Soto. Yeah. Okay. If you're asking me to pick, get me Soto also. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yes, that's the first thing. There is no certainty in free agency. So get me Soto doesn't mean anything. You could offer him $600 million and maybe he takes $500 million to stay in the Bronx. You have no idea what's going to happen. Right. Probably not. He's not going to take $100 million less. But I'm just round numbers. The other thing is people are misrepresenting what Pete is worth, even if this down year version of Pete is Pete going forward. Mm-hmm. To sit there and say, and I've talked to people who say it, Pete is not worth $20 to $25 million a year. That's just wrong. In this market, a guy who hits over 35 home runs is worth $20 million. Full stop. Now, we can talk about whether or not he's worth what he's worth in terms of years. Obviously, he has hurt his earning potential overall. 4 years, 5 years? Yeah. But Ibby, Max, so you're going to tell me. So listen, 4 years, let's high watermark. 5 years, 25 million is $125 million. Are you telling me you wouldn't sign that deal right now?
I'm saying, I said to you last week, I said that was the high watermark.
Right.
That I felt that's what he's hoping for. But I think that Boris is going to push for a lot more, not only from the Mets, but from other people.
Sure.
That's what they're going to push for.
Sure.
Yeah.
But taking that side of it out for a second, and just with people saying he's not worth $25 million. If you told me right now that Pete Alonso would sign a deal for $125 and the Mets said no, they'd be crazy. That deal is so worth it, even if he only hits 35 home runs a year.
Yeah.
So this notion that he's not worth that dollar amount, I'm not talking about years, that a player with his power potential is not worth $20 to $25 million a year is just flat out wrong. And then the other part of it that I think keeps getting ignored is that, yes, I'll bring Soto back into the conversation for a second. It is, thank you, Jeff. $20 million is the going rate for an average player now. That's my point.
It's true.
The goal is always to get better. Now, you try to aim high. You try to get Juan Soto. But the goal should never be, Ibby, to potentially get worse. So if the Mets don't get Juan Soto, well, then where do they go from there? Which is a point I've been making of like, you can't just be like, no, thank you, Pete. The other thing is, if the Mets do get Juan Soto in the best case scenario, now obviously that cures a lot of problems, but it's still because then you have a massive hole at either first base or third base.
Correct.
If the hole is at first base, your options become the likes of Christian Walker, who will be 35 years old, who had the best years of his career in a place that is extremely conducive to hitting and power hitting.
In a different market.
Right? And in a different market, never played in a big market. Or you want to go, we'll just get Carlos Santana. Okay, well, he's 39 years old. Is that going to be your solution? Get
39-year-old
first baseman on a 1-year stopgap for a couple $1 million. Maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I'd rather
something like that is more dependent on if you're saying, oh, we're going that route because 1-year stopgap so we can see what happens down low with the Ryan Clifford, but also because we're going to allocate more money towards Corbin Burns or somebody else. Like,
right. Or let's see what happens with Vlad Jr. in a year if Clifford doesn't pan out. So look, there is no such thing as a bad 1-year deal, but in terms of singular production, going from what Pete Alonso offers you to what a 39-year-old Carlos Santana offers you, you're not exactly replacing that in one fell swoop. If your solution is move, that's a great one, Dom Smith.
Jesus Christ.
If your solution is move Vientos to first base, okay, but now that opens up a hole at third base. Now, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. If you believe in Brett Beatty, maybe you have a corner infield of Vientos and Beatty. Okay, you know I'm not a believer in Beatty. I will say this, Ibby. In 2025, the Mets are better off with Pete and Vientos than they are with Vientos and Beatty. Just full stop. I don't think Beatty is going to come close to giving you that kind of production. If it's not Beatty and your idea is, well, we'll just get Ronnie Mauricio. We'll plug in Ronnie Mauricio. I love Ronnie Mauricio's potential. I love Ronnie Mauricio's upside. We're talking about a player who is coming off of a lost season. We're talking about a player who is coming off of 2 knee surgeries and a player who has 100 career major league at-bats. Not going to get it done. That is not a winning formula. Not to give him a job. If he comes out and he earns a job, that's great. But you can't give him a job. And then if you start to look outside the organization, it's very clear Ibby is no longer with us. If you're going to look outside the organization, well, you're going to spend a lot of money on Alex Bregman, who hasn't been good since 2019, Pete's first year in the league. He also hurt his elbow and is not really going to play third base for the rest of the season. That's the guy you're going to invest big money in instead of Pete, who's done it here. That doesn't make any sense. And if your answer is Matt Chapman, and he's a better option because he's an elite defender, look at Matt Chapman for a second. Look at what he has done over his career. And if you Met fans think that Pete Alonso is too streaky for you to stomach, go look at how streaky Matt Chapman is. Jesus. Go look at how streaky he is. You'd never be able to sit through it. You'd never, ever, ever be able to sit through it. So, you know, these are just the options you have to start to consider. Now, look, this one from Armand. I went on Baseball Reference and found out Anthony Santander plays first base. Did play first. His stats were 12 games, 7 games, small sample size, but I would take Santander at first. Look, it is a small sample size. It's a lot to ask somebody to change positions. Guy has a great arm. I've never seen him play first base. Now, look, if your solution is Santander, I've already said that. I've said, not at first, but I said, go get Soto and if you're not going to get Pete, go get Soto and go get Santander and have those guys be your guys. And then obviously you don't bring back JD Martinez. You can rotate the DH. You can keep guys fresh, put guys in the outfield. You can put Santander at first. You could do some creative things there. Ibby, I know you dropped out. I'm sorry to repeat myself for some of the folks here. But I will repeat it for your sake because I do want you to comment on it. So
sure.
We had gotten to the point where I was saying move Vientos to first base.
Right.
And then if you go with Beatty, now, you know, I don't love Beatty, but if your corner infielders are Vientos and Beatty, and that's what you believe in, you're going to be better off in 2025 with Pete and Vientos than you are with Vientos and Beatty. I think that's a foregone conclusion. Yes. If your option is go to Ronnie Mauricio, well, Ronnie Mauricio I love his potential. You know that. Ronnie Mauricio has 2 knee surgeries, a lost season, and 100 total major league at-bats. A team that's trying to win like the Mets is not plugging him in at third base. If he wins a job, that's terrific. But you're not going to be like, we don't need to go outside the organization. We have Mauricio. I don't know if that's the smart play. And then if you do go outside of the organization, Bregman is not good. He has not been good since 2019. He's hurt now. He's not playing third base for the rest of the year, basically. And you're going to have to spend over $100 million to get Bregman. So why not just spend over $100 million to get Pete? Pete's already done it here. And not playing with the Crawford boxes and not,
I agree. I agree with that 100%.
And then if you look to Chapman, who I know you like, I like, and I was saying this before, you look at Pete being too streaky for Mets fans. You think they're going to be able to stomach Matt Chapman and how streaky he is?
I said that the Mets fans would not be able to handle Matt Chapman, which is why I said he was never going to be here. Yeah.
The only saving grace is that he plays an elite third base. But again, he's never played in this market, and you have to pay him over $100 million. Just pay Pete.
Yeah.
Just pay it to Pete. So that's my point when people are just like, just throw him out and go get somebody else. The comment that I had pulled up when you came back was this one from Armand saying he went on Baseball Reference and found out that Anthony Santander played some first.
Yes.
Small sample size, 12 games, 7 games. But I would take him at first. And I was saying, look, I've already said, Ibby, forget about first base. I said, get Soto. If you're not going to get Pete, bring me Soto and Santander. And then you don't bring back JD Martinez. And you rotate guys into DH, you rotate guys into the outfield. Maybe Santander plays the bulk of first base. Maybe he plays some first base. Maybe him and Viet, and you just move guys around. I have no issue with that. But that to me is an actual plan, not just go get Christian Walker. Like what? Why? Why are you trying to spend? Again, just go get the better player. Why you tell me? It's a shorter deal. It's not going to be nothing. You're still going to have to pay him, I don't know, $50 million, $70 million. Just get Pete. Now, look, if it works out for Boris and Boris gets Pete $180 million, $200 million somewhere, which I don't think is going to happen.
I don't.
Then you want to send Pete on his merry way. I understand that. But if the thing is what you said, if it's 5 years for $25 a year at $125 million, if he has played himself into that ballpark, why would you not re-sign him? Why would you sign any of these other people unless your solution is we'll get Soto and then we'll sign Santander, which I will take. I will be happy with that. But if your solution is, we'll just get Soto and we'll figure it out, or we'll just get Soto and Christian Walker, we'll just get Soto and move Vientos, we'll just get Soto and get this guy. I don't think any of those solutions are as good as, okay, get Soto and then also just sign Pete. I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't understand the logic.
Like I was saying before, I think a lot of it also comes down to construction of the team and what might happen. And again, that said allocation of given money, just because if this team was to be able to go out and attain Soto at the amount that it's probably going to take, that doesn't automatically mean that they would have to, dish out $125 million even to Pete, because they might say, like I said before, they might say, well, we're going to go a different route and we're going to opt to get power from someone else, and then we're going to attack pitching because that's what we want to do instead, and we want to keep some of these guys, and this is how we're going to go about doing. Like, there are so many different ways, different machinations that can actually happen when this entire thing, finally comes to a head. And to bring up Douglas's point here, it says, I wish the solution was Pete gets hot and ends this conversation. Yep. I agree with that 100%. But it's just about September. Pete could have made this conversation moot. And we kept on saying, and it's crazy because we're so used to a certain stat line for Pete. He's still having a decent season. It's just not the season that we as Mets fans are accustomed to. And people are more apt to looking at Baseball Reference and Fangraphs and everything, and they see other people's tweets and they put out there about how the numbers have been trending down over the last 5 years and the peripherals don't look so great. And I understand all of that. I do. But it comes down to how they want, and this is why I said, no matter what, this is why I don't mind talking about all of this stuff. And I love talking about hypotheticals, and it's my favorite thing to do, especially in the offseason, about roster construction and how to build. It really fascinates me. I love doing it. But it doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all with Pete, because I trust David Stearns. And the reason why it's not the end-all, be-all anymore for me is because we have David Stearns. Like, I would be a lot more adamant about certain things because of who used to be in charge in different, pick a year for the Mets
Yeah.
besides this one. But because we have someone
It's
that
true.
I trust,
When
no matter
have,
what,
when you
whatever
have
he
the
chooses,
money,
I'm going to back it. Yeah.
when you have somebody who has the money and the willingness to spend, as Cohen does, and you have somebody with the intelligence to spend wisely and actually be a good baseball mind, which David Stearns is, it is easy to defer to them rather than saying like, oh, it's the Wilpons. They were never going to sign Pete anyway. Or, oh, it's Steve Cohen. He'll give Pete any dollar amount that Brody Van Wagenen or this guy or that guy or whomever thinks he should give him, because he's got all the money. So if, Billy Epler convinces Cohen to give Pete, $800 million, and I'm exaggerating, obviously, he's going to give it to him. So it's just like, you're right. You do have a guy with money who has a willingness to spend, and then a general manager who knows what he's doing. That does make some of this fairly moot. But I just think from a fan perspective, it is just so shitty to be like, nah, I'm good.
Well, look, and it's also, again, we buried the lead on the fact that he just hit his 220th home run as a Met. He's tied for third all time with Piazza, with only two names in front of him now, that being Strawberry and Wright. So it's like that, no matter what, I've said before that legacy is going to play somewhat of a factor, not as much as it would have if he had a crazy year, but it's still going to play a factor here, especially when it comes down to the year total. I really think that that's where the hiccup is going to come for this team with him, with Boris, what have you. The hiccup is going to come down to the years. I think the Mets are going to say, Pete, we're going to give you 4 years with a fifth-year option. I truly believe that is going to be there. I do not believe that the offer that they gave prior that was allegedly turned down, I do not think that offer is going to be on the table anymore. 157 or whatever. I don't think that is there. I think that is long gone. And I think they're going to, Pete, we're going to give you 4 years with a fifth-year option based off of stats, based off of you hitting 500 home runs or whatever it may be, like something along those lines, depending on how things may go. But that's where I am with that. But no matter what, I trust the process and I trust David Stearns. That's really what it comes down to for me. So no matter what happens, as much as I'm so used to being attached to said player, as I get older, it's more about the name on the front as opposed to the back. Would I love for him to be here and thrive in a good offense and hit 500 home runs for this team? Absolutely. But if David Stearns says, hey, this is the plan, this is what we're going to go with, I trust the guy. The guy has made constant winners. You're seeing a team that he left that is still thriving because of the moves that he made prior to leaving. His fingerprints are still all over the Brewers organization, and they continue to succeed. I want that. I want success. So what he chooses, I'm backing him. I will.
I don't disagree with that. Let's leave it on this. Get your reaction, and I'll give mine to this comment from Pantries, and then we'll get out of here for the week.
Let's do it.
Call me crazy, but I feel like Pete is going to have a monster year next year. No pressure, no more Boris whispering in his ear, and this year is really a down year for him. What do you think about the potential of Pete Alonso putting the contract behind him anywhere, wherever it may be, and going back to being a little bit more of Pete once all this is resolved? So I guess the question I'm asking you is, and the point that Pantries raises here is, are we truly seeing the decline of Pete Alonso, or do you think it's more likely that he is messed up here, and that once all that stuff is behind him, we will see the Pete of old? Which one do you think is more likely?
I hate to give a cop-out answer, but I think it's a little bit of both. And the reason why I say that is because, yes, I do think, and I have said on the show before, that this contract, I think, is weighing on him. And I've said before, not everyone always balls out when it comes to the contract year. For every Juan Soto, there is Michael Conforto. Like, it doesn't always mean you're going to have fantastic walk years. But I think that, and this is also why I've said that if they have a given number, if the Mets have a given number that they're going to sit at and say, Pete, this is our offer, this is where we're going to sit. And if no one tops it, I still think that Boris is going to say, Pete, I can get you a 3-year deal with the Cody Bellinger contract. I can get you that contract to go somewhere else, to put up big numbers, and we can go back out again and we can get you more money. I do think once he has, call it $30 million in his pocket, off of the 1 year or whatever. Yes, the idea of not staying and potentially going back out again might mess with him, but the fact that he got that money, I think he would be relaxed, which is why I have this feeling that he might be gone, because I think that they are going to have a hard line when it comes to the offer. But to answer the question at hand, yes, I think once he gets money that he feels he deserves for next year alone, I do think that he will have a great year. But at the same time, over the next 4 or 5 years, yes, I do think we are trending down. But do I think he can hit 40 home runs next year? Yeah, I do. I think he can. Wherever that is. I don't think it matters wherever it is, unless he goes to a cavernous ballpark that doesn't cater to his, like if he goes to San Francisco. Like, that's a different story. Maybe, but he still has power that can help him get the ball over the fence regardless of where he plays. But I do think he has a big year once he gets that money into his pocket, even if it's not the long-term deal he was hoping on. I still think it comes down to what a person thinks he is worth in that given year that allows them to relax. But that's also why I'm afraid that he might be gone, because he might take a Bellinger contract elsewhere because of Boris.
You know, it's crazy. I'm looking at his stats right now. Because
he almost has 40 homers.
Douglas has said it like, I wish it would be like he would make it moot by having a hot September. And other people have said it in the comments too. We talked about it last week and the week before that. Ibby, I know there's only like 30 games left. I mean, if he were ever to get hot and make this a real conversation, he could still hit, like he's at 28 home runs, 72 RBI. If he got hot, like Pete Alonso could hit 12 home runs
in a month. In
a month.
But I don't keep know on saying that. That's the whole thing.
No, I know. I don't think that. I don't know that he will. But it's just like, it's crazy because it's like, oh my God, he's been so bad. He's so bad. He's been so bad. And it's like, he gets on a hot streak. You can look up and see him sit. Like, it's possible that at the end of the season, I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying it's possible. We're at the end of the regular season and we go, holy shit, Pete Alonso has 40 home runs and, 110 RBI. Like, it's not likely, but it's possible. Maybe not 110, 100.
It's definitely possible. And look, everyone in this chat, everyone watching on Twitter or wherever you are, like listening, like everyone wants that. We keep on saying it. Yeah. And I said, like, it's just, it sucks that we're treating Pete almost like we were treating the team in general last year. We're like, they're going to get it. They're going to get there. They're going to get hot. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And it's like, it never happened. And now we're entering September. We're just like, we're still waiting for that Pete month where it's like, he just goes off. But yeah, the numbers aren't bad. We're just so accustomed to a certain way. And when you want to get paid for that certain way, it's like, well, if you're trending down now, like, why do you think you're going to get that money now? It sucks because these are the rules of baseball and you hit free agency when you hit free agency or what have you. But I know you want to cash in. I know you want to be paid properly for what you've done and what you still think you can do. But, it's tough because the Mets need Pete Alonso to be hot. They do. I love Francisco Lindor. I do. He's the best. Everything he's doing for this team is carrying this team. If this team can get Pete Alonso hot, for the love of Christ, it would go so freaking far. Because look, Nimmo's been gone for the second half, pretty much. Like he's been non-existent. So the idea of getting these guys, can we spark the magic, and can we get these guys all getting hot at the same exact time for an extended period of time? It could really determine a lot of things and mask a lot of this team's deficiencies. It really can.
Absolutely. Let's get out of here. We've done almost 2 hours again. I think it was an important show to kind of have this extended conversation about some of these things, even though some of them, sticky stuff and Lindor getting MVP chance don't necessarily matter in the grand scheme of where the Mets are right now, but they do matter for the fans. So I think it was important for us to talk about it. Douglas saying it sucks because the Mets could be in a better playoff position if Pete was Pete. I think that is a good enough comment to end on right there. Look, this has been a lot of fun. Long show. We've been doing a lot of 2-hour shows, but it's because it's fun and because we like talking to you guys. Like Ibby just typed out. You guys rock. All the love, like, and subscribe to the show. I'm John. That's Ibby. If you missed anything, you can go back and watch it as soon as we're done, which we will be in just a couple seconds. Best way to make that happen is by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Plus, it puts you in contention to walk away with an Edwin Diaz autographed baseball. Why wouldn't you want that? If you miss that, you don't have the opportunity to watch us. You can listen to us in about an hour or two when we drop as an audio show. But like I said, I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Til Mets Do Us Part live, courtesy of the Brella Sports Network. And we will see you guys next week. Peace.